Awesome, guys. All right. So Desmond Riley is here. And like I said, I met Desmond playing golf and was lucky enough to ride with him and was kind of hearing his story. And he was explaining to me that he owns 7 restaurants. They did $37 million in sales in 2023. We're going to go to one of them tonight. We're going to go to Chicken and Whiskey tonight if anybody wants to go. And then Desmond, he was telling me that in the restaurant business, there's opening a restaurant for dummies. There's certain laws in the restaurant business everybody follows or they die, meaning 20% of your revenue or less needs to go to labor, this and that. And there's these they've figured that out. They've published it. They know these are the rules that you have to follow. And Megan and I were talking, like, I don't think anyone has ever given you guys the writing, and it's probably very similar. So one thing I wanted to hear from Desmond is when you understand the fundamentals, that's probably what allows him to grow. It's also interesting that, that a lot of local restaurants, you have people who are cooking their own meal and struggling to run one restaurant, but Desmond has put together an organization that can manage 7 restaurants. So I thought it'd be really interesting to hear from him how he thinks about that and how he might be able to teach you guys. A lot of you guys said you want to be business owners where you manage a team of people who can accomplish more and potentially own multiple riding schools. So I think the best way is to hear from someone that's actually doing it. So this is Desmond Riley, and with that, I'll hand it over to him. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. Hi. Well, so you all are equestrian people, right? Total disclaimer before I get started into sort of the minutia, or maybe not some minutia, but some backstory. My very first restaurant, my very first venture, I'm a New York City guy, moved to Baltimore City. My business partner and I launched what we thought was a great concept in the city of Baltimore. I was evicted by the sheriff for non-payment of rent 9 months after we opened. My landlord, who used the word partner very liberally, suddenly became a creditor to me as the debtor when I was behind in my rent perspective. And that perspective isn't always so great. You see your warts and your wrinkles and your pimples and your, blemishes that otherwise aren't very attractive. The important thing is you can't go it alone. You have to take advantage of every resource you can find. And that really will help drive you. And you can lean on people when things get tough, because things will get tough. You'll be at the mercy of not only the economy, which is what I deal with on a regular basis. I guess as an equestrian business owner, your labor model is pretty tough, right? I'd imagine it's sort of expensive to hire people to teach others, right? It's a skilled piece of learning. You've got to find the right people with the right personalities, right? That in many ways, America is really pushing itself into a service-driven economy. We're getting further and further, other than big tech, the Metas, the Alphabets of the world, et cetera. You all provide a service, which is great, right? You provide a service to a pretty expansive demographic. One thing about what's happening in America right now is people are traveling, people are eating out. People are making money and they're spending money in hospitality. And I'm sure there's probably spending money in your business, right? See a lot of nodding heads. But before I go down any specific road, maybe we should start with some questions, some things that you would like to know about my business that maybe can be relatable to what you do.
That you were ready to open a second, third, and the next location.
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you want me to repeat it, or would you like to? Yeah. When did I know it was time to open restaurant number 2? Yeah. We wanted to grow. My business partner, my 2 business partners, and I wanted to grow. We didn't want to be one-stop shop general managers of a restaurant. We had already done that. We had done that in our career. And so when we went down the path of being a business owner, we wanted to be able to allocate the resources. So this is how we knew. The restaurant was making a lot of money. And it was providing investors, my capital investors. I have to take on financial partners. I put in a bunch of my own money. We get a chunk of tenant allowance money from the landlord, and then I raise a small amount of money from private investors. But we're making money, we're doing well, we have something good, people are liking what we're doing. All right, now it's time to move on. And truth be told, I could never do one career for the rest of my life. I really couldn't. I was an actor for years in LA and New York. I bounced back and forth. I'm in it for about a year and then I got to do something else. I just get bored creatively. The restaurant business is great for people like me because we can be focused, and then we want to move on to something else. But it's really driven by money. You can be stimulated by your love for teaching others. You can be stimulated by your, creative inner being to want to design the most beautiful riding school and all the things that come with it. But if your financial model isn't sound, you might as well just hang it up. It will never work. I have two partners, I said earlier. One is a logistics expert. So he helps someone like me get from point A to point B efficiently. Creative people can be a little all over the world, all over the map, and a little bit prone to something shiny is in front of me. So let me go over here in that direction. But yeah, he keeps me on the straight and narrow. And I have another partner who's a financial expert, 33-year veteran with Marriott Hotels from the finance department. That financial creativity really gets you out of problems. It helps you navigate tough times when, am I going to make payroll this week? Sales are dipping in Q3. How are we going to make this ship right? Those moments and those skills really, again, back to the partnering piece I talked about earlier, will really help you when things get tough. The tough part about partners is you have to share your money, right? And this is important, you have to share oftentimes, if you're with smart people, they will learn from you. So you're a great marketing person, you're an operations expert. Guess what? After a couple of years together, you guys might be on the same course on both levels, on marketing and operations. That really is what's happened with my group. So there's a lot of bleed now where there wasn't bleed before. And sometimes that creates a little bit of, acrimony, mostly because, hey, you're in my lane, guy, can you back off and let me make the decisions? But again, what's helped me is being open-minded. You don't know anything about everything. You just can't possibly. I've been in this business for 35 years now. I don't know half of what I'm talking about. It's really quite unbelievable. The business model that I'm in changes. It's so utterly dynamic between technology and food trends and design and entertainment. I have a fast casual model, which is called Chicken and Whiskey. It's a Peruvian rotisserie chicken restaurant, Pollo a la Brasa, chefed by Enrique Lamardo, who is this is bizarre, he's a Michelin rated chef. A Michelin star is given to the finest chefs in the world, not Virginia or Maryland, but the world. He owns and operates several restaurants in the DC area. But I was able to convince him to be my partner because he has that food acumen. He's got that food talent, right? So he enabled me to do a concept that I would never be able to do, from a culinary perspective, and he made it happen. But that little model is really become a challenge. We identified it as our growth model. So in your business, you find your riding school teachers, right? So you find a specific model that makes money or it catches fire, and then you want to replicate it. So you're all in a hurry to grow, right? Because everybody sort of wants more. We want more money. We want more of a footprint. We want more expansive, lifestyle, whatever it is that's driving you. I have a good friend who owns 13 restaurants. They're Ruth's Chris Steakhouses up and down the East Coast. And he just tells me all the time when I see him, more restaurants, more headaches. I finally, feel that at a high level at this point in my life. So be careful what you wish for, because it just might happen. And I say that with all truthfulness. But if you're driven, right, and you have the ambition to do this, because if you're not driven to do it and you don't have ambition, don't do it. Don't do it. If you don't get out of bed every day with a desire and your list that's tick, 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 ticking, and your clock is ticking, and you got to get out of bed because you have things to accomplish, do not do it. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. No one's going to believe you anyway. No one's going to give you money to raise. No one's going to give you cash to raise capital. I spent a lot of time raising money, and I'm pretty good at it. I've been raising money for a lot of years, but I do it because I really believe in everything we do. I also put my own money into every project we do as well. So I'm a partner, just like you. I don't just go ask for $1 million. I put in a couple $100,000 myself. So I'm with the investors shoulder to shoulder. That's meaningful, right? It carries a lot of weight. So fantastic question, but yeah, money. I wish I had a more philosophical answer, but that was it.
Can you speak more to how you get into raising capital?
Yeah, that's a good one. So there are tons of people out there who are looking for alternative investments besides exchange traded funds and their stock portfolios and whatever financial tool that their financial person has sort of directed them into. What we do is high risk, high reward. So my goal is, if you give me $100,000, my goal is to pay you back your $100,000 in 2 years, maybe 2.25 years. While you're waiting to get paid back, I'm going to give you an interest on your money, anywhere from 6 to like 8%. So it's not dead money, right? It's not sexy money. It's not 25%, but at least it's sitting in an account that's earning some sort of interest. And then I knock it down as we open for business and I pay you back your cash. And then over the subsequent 8 years, so we sign 10-year leases. And this is the real estate piece is really, really important. We could spend an hour just on talking about the real estate piece, because I'd imagine that you all lease or own the properties where you teach. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Didn't see that coming. That's interesting. Most people in my situation, we lease. We're asset light. The burden of carrying the real estate is a whole other gigantic conversation. So we strike a deal with the landlord. I like to sign a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options, or a 15-year lease with 2 5-year options. I want to be there a minimum of 20 years, right? 20 years is the lifespan. So our financial model is based on 10 years, FYI. So this financial model that I'm talking about, this is the most important thing that we do outside of the concept. The concept, if you don't have the concept, and your concept better be specific, specific meaning you got to be able to explain what you're doing in 30 seconds. And if someone walks up to your facility and they don't understand what you're doing inside of 30 or 40 seconds, well, maybe this isn't really accurate for you guys, but for my business, it is. People need to understand it at a high level quickly. You don't have time to do this and explain, well, I got to do this, I got to do this. No, they need to see it, smell it, taste it, quickly ascertain what's happening, and then boom, they're comfortable. The worst thing you can ever do is confuse people. And that's been one of my problems. I've confused people with my chicken and whiskey model. And so we're constantly refining, trying to make it better. The back to you and the raising of money. So if you want to raise money, you have to offer something in return. And people want a nice return. They want a return that's better than what they're going to get in the stock market, or better than what they're going to get from their normal portfolio management. So what we offer is, besides the fact that we're going to pay you back this 6 to 8% preferred rate of return, we call it, while you're waiting to get paid back your original capital, over the period of 10 years, my goal is to get you 25% cash on cash per year. So if you give me $100,000 per year, I want to give you $25,000 back. Now you take the whole 10 years, right? And you add in the payback period and the subsequent 8 years, right? And that's where you get the 10-year period from. So I want to get you back a 25% cash on cash. It's an accounting rate of return. That's important for us. We also have an internal rate of return, which is a little higher. And the difference between accounting rate of return, which is cash on cash, right? I give you this, I give you this, you give me that. Internal rate of return is the money goes back into the business, so it provides a larger return over a period of time. That's some sort of basic accounting premises there. But these are standard in my business. In my business, this is the offering that I just said. I'm going to pay you back in 2.25 years. I'm going to give you 25% cash on cash. I'm going to sign a 10-year lease. You will be my passive investor partner. You come together with you get a lawyer and I write a private placement memorandum. It's called a PPM. It's a business plan. You can Google PPM and you'll see what that is. But it's a business plan that gives you a roadmap of where you want to go. It includes all of the details on the deal structure, the lease or the ownership, how that works, the concept of the business, how you plan to market that business, also how you plan to operate that business, get within any sort of confined period. But a PPM, so learning how to write a PPM is really important. They're out there. you could download one online and you could see the template, but that model is going to be the prospectus that you give to a potential investor, and they're going to read through it. They're going to say, all right, this is your plan. I'm going to give you this and I'm going to get this. It's pretty straightforward. What we do is, besides those financial parameters I just outlaid, we after we pay you back in full, you give me 100K, I'm going to give you 6 to 8% of the interest on top of that as I'm waiting to pay you back in full, right? So then you get your money back. I want to give you 100% of the profits until you're paid in full. And then when you're paid in full, it flip-flops to, in terms of ownership. Instead of you getting 100% of the profits and I get 0, I'm going to take 60% of the profits and you're going to get 40. Some people do 70-30, some people do 50-50, some people do 45-55. It just depends on, and this is all like very simple Excel sheet work. It just depends on how much money you want to make, especially your first location. Be generous. Don't be afraid to be generous. I was very generous my first go around, and it made all the difference. I made a lot of people a lot of money, not myself, but a lot of people a lot of money. But guess what? I was able to raise money for stores 2, 3, 4 through 7 because of it.
That is after you're paying yourself the salary of itself?
Yeah. So when I had one restaurant, I was the general manager. I was the co-general manager with my partner, Chris. And we paid ourselves a small salary of $50,000 a year. And that was folded into the operations and the budget of the model. Now, we also, the ownership side takes on their portion of the profits. We call ourselves organizational investors. People that give you money are equity investors, right? So you got equity and you got organizational. Money you get from a bank, it's obviously debt, right? So those are the 3 pieces of financing that the restaurant models have. And you could, by the way, use this. I mean, if I were going to raise money tomorrow for a horse business or any business, you could use this very same premise. At the end of the day, it's what are the investors going to receive in return for this relatively high risky venture? Yeah, right. So I'm the organizational investor because I organize the plan. Pardon me? Source sweat equity. Yes. Some people call it the promote, but most people call it the organizational investors, right? So yeah, so I call all the shots in the day-to-day, and my investors that give me cash really have no say really whatsoever. They have a vote. But you structure the voting rights, and this is important. You structure the voting rights. And again, this is just basic math, to always fall in your favor. You don't ever want to take money from a group of friends, relatives, or strangers who can tell you what to do with your horse farm. You want to take money from your business partner who knows as much about running an equestrian, business as you do. You don't want to ever be at the mercy of your equity investors by giving them all the voting rights. They can come up with the majority of the cash, which is typically what we do. A typical deal structure would be, let's see, we just opened up a chicken and whiskey in Clarendon, Virginia. It was a $4 million project. I raised $2 million. 20% was my own personal cash, meaning myself, my 2 partners. We got another $1 million from the landlord as a tenant allowance for you people who are, and then we had the 4th million was from debt from a bank, Sandy Spring Bank. Wonderful local partner. It's amazing. You get into business with banks. I have all my accounts that run through Capital One, and we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees every year. It's part of the business of having multiple businesses. You pay fees to banks. So I go to Capital One. All right, I need $1 million. All right, I want your house. I want your future beach house. I want your children. I mean, it was so egregiously, flagrantly ugly. So we said, the hell with that. So we moved to Little Sandy Spring. And guess what? Sandy Springs, like, no personal guarantees. You have a great financial background. Your businesses are solvent. We're going to do business with you. So seek out financial partners like that. Smaller, more independent. They'll offer you great terms. And don't be afraid of debt. That's good. That's good. At low rates, cheap money. That's how else would you grow your business? You're going to go out and toil in the dirt, making 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year or whatever that number is. Don't be afraid of debt. I used to be afraid of debt. I used to be so horrified of debt. Couldn't have debt. Couldn't ever be in the hole for X, Y, and Z. You have to get over that. Now, be smart with your terms, be smart with your banking partner, make sure that you have a backstop. What does that mean? I have a partner who's wealthy. If the shit really hits the fan, he can float $100,000 to cover X, Y, and Z. That was really fortuitous. We didn't seek a partner like that, but in retrospect, I would totally seek a partner like that. How do you find investors? Oh, sorry, partners like that. Yeah, it's easier to find the investors, the partners. So you have to really, one of the things that I do that has helped me tremendously is I pick up the phone and I call anybody and everybody. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they own 500 restaurants in Dubai. I will call them. It's amazing how generous, successful people are. It's amazing how generously vociferous, successful people are. They can't wait to tell you how all these wonderful things they did. Really, I just start asking them questions, and they'll take you to lunch. Will you take them to lunch? Buy them coffee. Do whatever. But don't be afraid to reach out. And it's flattering. It's flattering to be asked to come here. I had a break in my day. I was in my office in my home. I'm mired in landlord issues with an exhaust problem. It's boring, but there's a lot on the line, right? So someone has to do it. So I do it. So it's fun to come here and share, right? Pay it forward. So I call all of the best operators in the DMV, and being from New York, I knew nobody when I came here. So whether it's Dan Simons from Founding Farmers or John McDonald, who's a COO of Clyde's Restaurant Group, these are big time companies. They're much, much larger than I am. I ask them questions. We become friends. Next thing you know, I'm texting them. Hey man, my labor costs are out of whack. What do you think I should do? Or, what's the starting salary for your AGM in the Columbia market? Is it like 85? All these small little details, everyone's sharing everything. And what you'll find is they will start to ask you questions. I have major restaurant owners call me asking me to help them on certain things because they don't know that certain demographic or certain area so well. That's crazy flattering to me and quite frankly, unexpected. I never saw that coming, but you got to give a little to get a little.
Where your conversation earlier today, because I keep thinking to myself, who's going to invest? Like really, like,
Well,
why?
what are the returns? Tell me, give me your 30-second elevator pitch. What am I going to get? If I give you $100,000 today, what am I going to get?
That's something
Okay.
Yeah.
Open PPM for you guys and show you guys when you hit the KPIs, the type of return you should be able to give to investors.
Right.
That is more attractive than typical. Let's get you a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds, kind of like yawn or that to everybody. So, or would you like to be a part of horseback?
Putting together a business model that gives me a quick pitch. Because the first thing I thought when you asked me that was, well, I've got a big pile of shit in my back. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's so far behind restaurant people and the business model and the same way that everyone raised their hands. I'm sure Desmond was thinking, if you sold your property and at least sit back for 20 years, you would get so much more cash through asset light instead of just sinking every dollar into these money pits. You could sell it to somebody for a big amount. At least sit back and just line their pockets, right? No restaurant, all the restaurants are selling their property. Like some of them bought it, right? And then they're leasing it back.
Yeah, some companies own the real estate. It's expensive to do that. We don't do that. We would rather invest in some bank debt and put that money into the concept itself. I went through a phase where I really wanted to own the real estate and do exactly what you just said, Brian. I wanted to buy it. I wanted to lease. I wanted to be the tenant of my own restaurant. I thought that was great. How could I not do that, right? Well, It's great if you make money. So one of the things, one of the problems, one of the mistakes that my group made, we create a pro forma with only the best expectations. We're gonna make a lot of money. We're gonna beat the market. We're gonna beat our restaurant that we did a year ago. We're only gonna be successful. Man, that's just crazy. You can't do that. You have to actually, in your case, if it's your first restaurant or first business, going back in time, I opened up my first restaurant in 2012. It was April 20th, 2012 in Baltimore City. And I had a pro forma that was only built for success. And I raised money. Came from New York City. I raised $1 million in cash from local investors, $1 million from strangers. I'm not even from Baltimore. We were able to do it because we had a good model in a ostensibly a good location. Turned out that was the undermining factor. But that, and I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, quite honestly. But I had a great partner, and we were just convicted. We just dropped our lives off in New York City, quit our jobs, came into Baltimore, and launched this great concept. It was called Kettle Hill. After we got evicted by the landlord, well, the landlord evicts you, and then the sheriff comes up and puts a big orange red sticker. Oh yeah, it's like that. You show up to work and you see that sticker and you just want to throw up right there on the sidewalk. It's everything you worked for 2 years, or in my case, it was 3 years, is gone in a second. And then, that doesn't include the fact that my girlfriend, who I met in Baltimore, was pregnant at the time. We're married and we have kids and it all worked out. But, there's some drama in all that. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. 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 Guess what? When I had to go bankrupt, I listed my dad, my partner's dad, my sister, people who gave me money. I listed everybody in the bankruptcy. That means you cannot be touched by any of these people ever again. It was painful and embarrassing, and it's very public, but you have to cover your ass. You have to hire a lawyer that's got your interests in mind, not necessarily the partnership, but yours. I'm sorry? Yeah. That's, yeah. Right. Yeah. No, it didn't. It surprisingly worked. This is how it worked. That's a wonderful point that you bring up. So my second restaurant, which will do $10 million in sales this year, huge, successful restaurant. It's in the National Harbor. It's called the Walrus Oyster and Ale House. It's rated not only as one of the best seafood joints in the area, we contribute more oysters back to the Chesapeake Bay than we're like 3 in the entire DMV. We've done a great job there. That was my sophomore effort. I'm sitting with the Peterson companies. They're a regional developer and landlord in the DMV. They've got a wide reach, but I'm sitting with their executive committee, meaning of the company, the CEO, John Peterson, their chief legal, their real estate head, my broker, my business partner, my 2 business partners. So the 7 of us at this table, like this. And immediately when I told them, this is the old restaurant that we got evicted from, boom, the laptops, bing, 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 everyone's Googling the restaurant. And luckily for me, 4.5 on Yelp, 4.6 on Google, excellent scores, great guest satisfaction surveys, all that GSS was really, really positive. The menu was beautiful. The design was beautiful. All this stuff looks great, but the restaurant didn't make any money because no one showed up. And Kent Digby, who is in charge of all the National Harbor retail, says, man, you just need a better piece of real estate. And that was exactly all I needed. I got a better piece of real estate, and boom, my sophomore effort is my most successful restaurant. Yeah. So it didn't matter that the restaurant went bankrupt because we picked a bad location. Yeah, the plan was good, right? I'm sorry, what's your name? Chrissy, the plan was good. Everything was good. We were good. We had a solid roadmap, but the real estate was crap. And I didn't know the real estate was crap because I'm from New York. I come to Baltimore and I see this, but every town in America is nuanced. Baltimore is a very nuanced town. You think you know the area and you have to live in that town to really understand it. I lived there for 8 years afterwards before I moved to where I live now. But yeah, it's heavily nuanced. So you have to really not only understand your area that you're in, who's coming, how are they getting there? Is this a, is everyone driving in their $100,000 SUV to come see you? Are people walking to see you? I know they're probably driving an SUV to come see you guys, but the point is that it did not affect my ability to raise money, because at the end of the day, people will respond to conviction. They respond to your drive. They'll respond to an opportunity that is more sound. And quite frankly, this is another great thing that happened, and it was painful, but in retrospect, it's been good. People saw that I suffered and I lost all my money and I lost all my friends' money. And I was publicly listed as a bankrupt company in the city of Baltimore. It's a very public, embarrassing experience. They saw that I made mistakes, and guess what? Now I was back with all that knowledge and all that learning and all that information, right? So I knew more. I knew what to do next time. When I opened up my second restaurant, I was so much better prepared. I was, but I had to lose everything to get there. I don't recommend you do that. 2 years, which is pretty good. But I had no children for, let's see, my wife and I were pregnant in 2013. So when the restaurant crashed, that's when we found out we were pregnant. And then I went right back to work to try to open up the second restaurant. And it was rough. Times were tight. Money was non-existent. My wife had a decent job, but terrible benefits. So we were really, really struggling. I would close the restaurant at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, jump in my car, drive back from National Harbor to Baltimore City, which is 57 miles one way, then wake up at 6 a.m. to feed my daughter. And man, I couldn't have done that if I were older, too old. And I had, I wouldn't do that now. I'm 56. I've got 2 kids, a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and my lovely wife. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that what I did. I couldn't now do that because it was too risky. I was totally unafraid of anything risky at that time in my life. Now I'm much more measured. I'm much more sort of weathered and chiseled and experienced. But yeah, it serves you well. But just don't just randomly throw yourself out there. You inherit $1 million from somebody and just throw it into this business without your roadmap. You got to have your roadmap. You got to have your good lawyer. You got to have your good partner. I mean, if I could leave you with 3 things, those would be the 3 things. Yeah. 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 Oh, I did. I had a bad experience with small business. Okay, so this is a crazy story. My first restaurant, Kettle Hill in Baltimore City, we applied for an SBA loan. We had with M&T Bank, and they loved us because I had a partner, not a financial partner, but sort of a partner who was sort of like shepherding the deal, who was a famous baseball player. I'm not going to mention his name because it'll only get me into trouble. Famous guy, not only in the country, but it's like super famous in Baltimore. And the cool thing about the SBA at that time was no personal guarantees. Yes, personal guarantees. I had to sign a personal guarantee. My partner, Chris, had to sign a personal guarantee. That was what we needed to show. So on the 10-yard line, we need this extra $150,000 to fund the final piece. It's the final piece of the capital stack. Your capital stack is the amount of money that you need to open up your business. It's your equity that you put into yourself. It's your debt that you got from your local bank. And maybe it's your tenant allowance that you got from your landlord for all you guys who lease your properties. But that's your capital stack, right? That's what that means. On the 10-yard line, actually it's more like the 2-yard line, M&T says, guess what? Your financials don't really qualify. We want somebody else to sign on the dotted line. So they knew that I was partners, right, with this famous baseball player because he was listed in the PPM. They said, we want a personal guarantee from you. And so I had to strike a deal with him, right? With giving him more money for him to underwrite that deal. Well, when the restaurant went south, he lost all his money and he was on the hook from the bank. I'll never forget that. M&T Bank at the last minute, when I was in my most vulnerable position, they changed the terms of the deal. And I was fucked. What am I going to do? I have $850,000 in cash. I need $1 million or else I can't open my doors. I'm being a little dramatic right now. But the point is, you get the point. And they changed the terms of the deal. I couldn't say no. I mean, this is like my first venture. I put everything into it, all my time, all my money, 3 years of my life. And yeah, so to this day, I don't do business with M&T Bank.
In hindsight, would you have walked away from the deal or would you still go with M&T deal knowing you don't know?
You get to a point in your career, your life, the life cycle of a business, you can't say no. There is no going back. There is no point of, the moment anyone gets a whiff of that sort of like behavior, they're going to walk right out.
No, I mean, like they're like M&T Bank changed the deal on you in the last minute.
Yeah.
Would you have walked away from M&T and gone to a different bank?
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Uh,
No, because, well, we could have, yes, but my friend agreed to do the deal. But that could take months. That whole SBA process was ridiculous. It took months and months. Yeah.
3 days to buy it now.
Yeah.
He didn't know what was going on, but her husband went to jail for tax evasion.
Oh, wow.
Sold it back 26 years.
Yeah.
And didn't tell her why. And she was looking at the IRS taking everything.
Yeah. That's rough.
We had 30 days to buy this. For the IRS was looking at I don't know.
Yeah.
We actually-
Right. Good for you.
There are still things.
See, that's a great story. That's a great story. That's like the commercials you see on TV, right? Yeah. I see those commercials and I'm like, man, M&T runs a lot of those commercials. And I see those guys, but yeah, and I see all the Capital One commercials. They hire great creative from Madison Avenue, New York City, and they're beautiful and they suck you in. It's like an Apple. You buy an Apple Watch. You bought the movie. You didn't buy the watch. You bought the movie. It was so compelling. Go on the Apple website and you see the event. You guys, ever do that? Look at other people's marketing. Start doing that. You guys know any other successful horse farms that do what you do? Start doing that. Start doing that. Study everybody that's good. Yeah, study him. Take him out to lunch.
Yeah. It's just, you can see the horse industry doing so well. You guys aren't signing rock solid 20-year leases. You guys aren't choosing the most prime location and the most prime concept of lease there. You're sort of just making do with these big real estate deals. You lease them month to month, and then you get kicked out of a written notice, and you go to the next one, you lease it month to month, and so you just see the driving, you don't see driving truckers making rock solid, one giving themselves 20 years. You don't see them getting lines of credit to make it through bad times.
Yeah.
And so
All of the Buckley told the second, if you were to become a millionaire, you have to start out as a billionaire. In horse industry. And that was a bit of a mentality that we, at least my generation.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no money. Well, it's not possible. It's like that. You just didn't want nothing. You were broke out.
I think it's because
Yeah.
I don't think it's that different than restaurants. I don't think that, I'm sure if you wanted to open up a restaurant, they would tell you that restaurants have really high ability to do. Like anybody ever tell you that, like.
Everybody, even the people that gave me money would remind me that what the stat is basically 90% of restaurants go out of business the first year, and then year two, like another 80% of them go out year two. But what
That your first restaurant failed.
it's not, I wear it as a badge of honor. I really do.
Yeah, because it's like if you're a restaurant guy, and you want to help fail a restaurant, I mean.
Yeah.
90% of them fail, so it's not.
Yeah.
What's like, what, you failed? It's like, yeah, so did.
People feel like, whoo, you got that one out of the way. Now let's make some money. No, seriously, people have said that to me. I think that's important.
It's not an excuse to say,
It's
like, the horse industry, you know, we were told that you can't make it, so that's why we're not doing one.
yeah.
It's saying for the rest of it. We need more people like Desmond sounding like this about how they opened up 7 Rhymes.
So when I was a little boy, my dad was very successful. He's a very successful anesthesiologist. However, he made more money in stock and real estate speculation than he did at being chief of anesthesia in his group in Pennsylvania. Super overachiever. Those fucking baby boomers, man, they just kill it. I'm trying to catch up to him my whole life. I'll never ever get there. I say that now, it'll truth no, but my sister owned a horse, gorgeous horse. Hala was her name. And my dad would shell out so much cash to board and feed this horse. One point in time, he was considering buying a horse farm because he was spending all this money to take care of this horse and the training and the traveling and the trailers and the outfits and the whole 9 yards. And she was English style, is that it? Right? So she would show all over the state of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia. And she ended up becoming a vet because of this background. She's a very successful vet in Cape May, New Jersey. But all I ever heard was how expensive this horse was and all of the ancillary things that were involved in this. And now I'm thinking about it. It's like, you know, but he was willing to part with his money because his daughter wanted to do it, right? So I have a daughter. She's a fencer. I travel all up and down the East Coast to take her to fencing tournaments. She's a nationally competitive fencer. She's 10, right? I'm going to take her to Notre Dame next year because they have the #1 fencing team in the country, right? And that's the aspiration. I want her to go to the best college that she can get to that has the best fencing team and a great academic institution. But there are people like me willing to part with their money because you've touched me in some way. And whether it's my daughter, my son, my wife, however, you got to find that piece, that marketing piece. You got to find that thing that is that emotional. I talk about this a lot. We have 3 restaurant brands. Doi Moi, which is Vietnamese, full service Vietnamese. The Walrus, Oyster and Ale House, which is full service seafood. Chicken and Whiskey, which is fast casual Peruvian rotisserie chicken with a whiskey bar. I go to great pains to make sure the outsides of the restaurant look good tip to tip for whatever the model is. What the right paint, the right color, the right lights, the right signage, the right furniture, the right color of the furniture, the right flowers in the flower boxes, all that stuff. It's a lot of expense, but it's mega marketing and it's how people decide what they want to do because for whatever reason, people have emotional attachments to these types of things. So it's how do you present yourself? How do you look? How do you dress when you do one of your sessions? How does the outside facility of your space look? How does your online presence look? How you present yourself, how you brand yourself starts with you, right? And it bleeds out in everything you do is crazy important. It's super important. I spend a lot of my time doing just that, because I want to present us, my company, my partners, our businesses in a way that makes us attractive. And by the way, I don't even always know what that is because it's a lot of it is when you're an actor, you're on stage and you're doing your thing, but ultimately the audience tells you what you're doing, who you are. I'm going to do Shakespeare, but I'm a clown. So I'm really Mercutio from Romeo and Juliet, So I'm not telling you that, but you're telling me that. You follow? All right. So don't be afraid to listen to your audience. That's super important. They'll ultimately tell you who you are. You think you're one thing, they tell you you're another, but guess what? Who cares? They're paying for it, right? So let them tell you who you are, and then you just embrace it and you sort of move forward in that respect. That was a really powerful learning lesson that happened over a long period of time, but yeah. Yes.
How long was that, and what did you kind of see the writing on the wall?
Yeah, so 9 months. 9 months, not even 1 year. When did I? No, it's not that it's unusual, but 9 months is a little short. Usually, you got to give it a year. It takes me and my partners 9 months to break even now, even with all of our experience. And some of the restaurants, I have 2 restaurants that are not breaking even. for a bunch of different reasons. But point is that there's this ramp up time. You must be, you gotta keep your coffers full. So you have a ramp up period. I don't know what the ramp up period is in your business, but you have to be prepared to not make any money for a year. And if you're still not making money after a year is over, or getting close to breaking even, or you don't see these windows of sunlight, yeah, that's when you should know. When did I know? We opened up our doors. The first, we threw an opening party. It was one of the best parties I'd ever been to. People like, man, I had like Michael Phelps there, and all kinds of like industry people there. Bunch of the Orioles, all those guys were there. It was really fun. And then after that free event, after the free booze and free food went away, no one came back. No one came back. Yeah. So I remember standing in the middle of the restaurant. It's a horrifically scary feeling. You're in the middle of a restaurant and there's all these beautiful seats and no one's sitting in any of them. And you don't know what to do. You don't know how to fix it. And then someone comes to you with a plan to fix it, but you can't afford to pay for it. They're coming to you with TV ads, radio, print ads, all this really mega expensive marketing. Marketing is so expensive, but you have to do it. I'm in the throes now of restructuring my whole marketing department because we've been lucky to be cheap on the marketing, and now it's biting me in the ass. And now I got to spend extra on the marketing to help a couple of restaurants out. Underperformers typically need more marketing dollars. Overperformers, you can, pay less. But yeah, I knew like maybe a couple months into it when I didn't know what to do. I'm a pretty smart guy, got a solid background in a lot of different interesting things. I was an English major at Wake Forest. Then I studied theater in New York City at Circle in the Square, which is a very competitive conservatory. I was a Division I athlete. I was a tennis player at Wake Forest. So I have a lot of moxie. No is not in my vernacular. I don't give up. I don't. You got to be prepared for all of these bad things to happen. And I don't need to be pessimistic or bring the gloom and doom, but this is not a rosy skip in the park, wonderful experience. It could really, really suck. You could lose you could lose everything. And do you really want to lose everything? Divide the risk, right? Get a partner, get a financial partner, split up the risk. Don't shoulder it all yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing is I was talking earlier, it's your mindset. You just said you just say no, you just don't say.
It's not in my world. I just find another way. Yeah. And you let rejection. I would go on 100 different auditions. I get rejected every single time for stupid stuff like Heineken commercials, not just like real theater or a movie or a pilot. I heard no all the time. Eventually you turn no into like a fuck you, and you just get more galvanized, right? It really, really works in a powerful way if you let it. You have to let it drive you and not hurt your feelings, and you feel sorry for yourself. And that's not going to get you anywhere. And you're not Pollyannic, by the way. Everything is not perfect. I'm not, perpetually optimistic. I'm not. I'm really reality-based, pragmatic person. I'm a centrist in all my sort of moderate views, but whatever your means are of finding the fire within, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to tell everyone what you're doing, but you got to find your own sort of thing. And that muse, that fire, whatever that word is that you use to propel you, you just have to hold on to that. And as long as you're convicted, it'll work. And people sense that. Another really important thing is the older I get, the more I realize I have to listen to myself, follow my instincts. Can't rely on everybody else to tell me what to do. Every time I do that, I regret it. I regret the hell out of it. I have a whole bunch of great people who work with me. No one works for me. They work for their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers, their lovers. We work together, right? In the restaurant industry, we're shoulder to shoulder. If you see me in one of my restaurants, I'm picking up garbage in the floor. I'm like, running some food out to a table. Whatever. You have to sort of like, and do the work. You can't be afraid of the work. You can't just walk into your place of business and be a dictator or an autocrat. You got to really be engaged. And my business partner says all the time, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And you've heard that before, right? But it's true. It's really true. So I sort of like live by those words. Yeah. You'll find your thing. Sorry, I'm taking up probably more time than I was supposed to.
Yeah, like 10 minutes.
closed and like station, lose everything. What if the performance of even being able to push all up and down and push forward and not only mentally but financially into your next venture, like that space between.
Yeah, so I had a newborn baby at home, no job, no credit. I mean, no credit cards, no debit cards, nothing. Crazy place to be in, right? Got a job working for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse as an event planner. They called it event manager for, I think my salary was $42,000. Yeah. Which is not even, I don't pay anybody $42,000 in my company. It's so funny that they would pay me, but anyway, I got a job. I got a survival job just to stay afloat, right? Keep the lights on. It got to that point. You just have to do what you have to do. I mean, that sounds so cliche and so trite and canned. I don't mean to sound that way. You go to work and you get a job. You find a job that's not your perfect job. You find a job that you're willing to do that someone else won't do for probably less money, but you need to move fast. And then, so I had this job at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I'm this event manager. So my job is to go sell events, right? But I'd go to work. I had this office with these couple other people, and I would act like I'm taking calls. I'd run upstairs to the private event room and I was on the phone raising money for my next venture. I was spending my hours raising money for my next project on the phone, taking calls, trying to do another deal. I got fired from that job, by the way. But it bought me like 8 months. 8 months. That's all I needed. I got 8 months and then boom, I was off to my next deal. We raised the money. We opened up the restaurant and then we opened up the second restaurant and it took me 8 months to make any real money, meaning the restaurant was breaking even, losing. Then 8 month mark hit and then we started doing well. And then, all these years later, it's super duper successful. And so I'm looking to do another deal in National Harbor because I love that trade area. So if we find a trade area like 14th Street in DC that does well, we pop a couple places in a trade area that does well. That's really been good for us. It's unusual that you'll have a dog and a winner in the same market if you're the same operator. We've got restaurants that are sort of modest earners in certain trade areas and others that are super overachievers. But that question is that's the hard question to ask. You just have to figure out a way to get it done.
What are basic restaurants?
So our key performance indices really start out in the first one is I look to make anywhere from 17 to 20% EBITDA. But everybody knows what that means. Earnings before interest, taxation, depreciation, and amortization. EBITDA, it's a financial. Yeah, but what's a better way to explain it? If you it's the earnings before the interest on any bank debt, your taxes, it's really your EBITDA is going to be a bigger number than your profit. So if I can make 17 to 20% EBITDA, then after I add back in the other pieces, my profits will probably be maybe this is important. Actually, this is actually good for you all as well. I pay myself a management fee. Every restaurant pays. So our mother company is called SRG Concepts. That's my two partners and myself. We bring all of the expertise, all of the day-to-day direction. We raise the money. We come up with the concept. We have all the financial acumen, and we have all the restaurant expertise to run the places. For that, we pay ourselves a management fee. This could work in your model. For us, it's anywhere from 5 to 6%. 5 to 6% of the gross sales, right? So if you're doing $1 million a year in sales, take immediately 5% off the top. And then you might need to play with this number, but this is what the people in the restaurant business do. We take anywhere from 5 to 6%. And that's pretty standard. And no one would really give you a hard time about that because that's sort of standard. Your you guys have been in this business a long time, right? You know what you're doing. You've gone to good schools, perhaps. You've got super well-known in your profession. You should get paid for that, no matter what, right? Boom, get your 5%. That's going to keep your lights on. That's going to pay your bills while you're getting your business off the ground. It's called your management fee. Collect your management fee. That's super important. Then when I add my management fee back into my EBITDA, right, then I'm at that sort of 12, 13, 14, 15% profit, which is really where I want to be. If I didn't have a management fee, my profits would be greater, but I want to guarantee, I call it a guaranteed payment. I want to guarantee myself a fee for my hard work and my expertise. And so that management fee satisfies that. And all of the management fees from all the restaurants get thrown into SRG Concepts, the mother company. And I use that money to pay for our little office in Arlington, Virginia, my director of finance now, my director of operations, my assistant director of operations, director of restaurants, director of marketing, director of catering. Jesus Christ, the list is going on and on. And my two partners and myself. Here's something that, okay, so getting back to KPIs. So that's the big one. You really have to, like, I don't know what it is in your industry. Maybe it's 17% EBITDA, but look up that word EBITDA, get familiar with these financial terms. Oh, so earnings, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Okay. One of the things, start becoming familiar with financial terms. When you talk to a banker, you talk to a lawyer, they're going to say all these big words and you got to know what it means. Oh, appreciation. Look up all these terms, look up all these words, study, amortization. Amortization is, paying down of debt. EBITDA. Get familiar with these financial terms and the basics of them. And what we look for is, so we want an EBITDA number to be a certain number. For us, it's really that 17%. And how did I learn that? Well, I had all these meetings with all these smart restaurant guys, and they coached me up because at one point in time, we wanted to take one model and grow it up and down the East Coast. And thank God we didn't do it, because we wouldn't have been able to do it. Probably I'd be out of business. So I started taking meetings with these with high level restaurant people, and they would coach me up on all these things. And that was just one of the things that came out of it. Another key for us is your real estate deal. Your real estate piece is so important for all of you leasing people. We call it occupancy costs. So it's not only the rent you pay, but it's your CAM, your common area maintenance charges. Your landlord will try to slide these things in there into your lease, and it's only $1 a square foot or $2 a square foot or whatever it is. Seems like a nominal number, but those fees add up. So if you have a 1,000, I don't know, what's a classic size of one of your venues? They're big farms, small spaces?
By
Stall. Okay. So it's a building with stalls in it. That's maybe, and you lease the land around it. Okay. So, and then the land around it, it's completely up to you. Snow removal, trees fall down. Yeah. Right. So negotiate all these things, get a good lawyer, good real estate lawyer, and get all these things taken care of. So for me, I don't want to pay more than 8% of my gross sales as to my occupancy, right? So I can't have my rent and all these little charges, like the common area maintenance charges, utilities, insurance. They really try to stock it to you, these landlords, with all these things. All right. Before you know it, your rent that you thought was $50 a square foot is now 70, because you added on all these extras. We call it triple nets, right? In our business, you know what I'm talking about, right? We call it triple nets. but you got to watch out for that. And they'll try to give you everything. You say, no, I'm not going to pay that. No, I'm not going to pay that. So eventually they figure it out. But 8% is my threshold. I want to get that down more as, yeah, no, 8%. So 8% of my gross sales. So everything in my business is a function of sales. So if the restaurant is doing $5 million, right, in revenue per year, everything is a percentage of that $5 million, whether it's 8%, 10%, 20%. I want my labor to be 30% or lower. Front of house is different than back of house. And again, these are my costs, but you should know what your occupancy costs are in relationship to your sales. You should know what your labor costs are in relationship to your sales. In my case, it's really like in that like 28, 29%. You want to know what, for me, I need to know what my food and beverage costs are related to sales. For me, my food needs to be, if it's a fast casual, 24. If it's a full service restaurant, it's like 27. But if it's seafood, because seafood's expensive, right? I'm bringing seafood from Maine every day to create this beautiful $39 lobster roll, which I've made a living on. It's 31 to 32%, right? So depending on what you're doing, it's a function of your sales. Because if the sales aren't there, right? If you're not doing $5,000, sorry, if your operation is not a $5 million operation, but you've budgeted your rent to be at 8% of 5 million. Well, if your sales drop to 4 million, but your rent is still based on that 5 million, guess what? You're going to be losing some cash, right? It's the math. And so suddenly the landlord becomes less of a partner and more of a creditor, right? So that's important. I love the fact that you guys own your own. Most of you own your own property. I think that's great. It's really great. Eliminates a lot of issues. I don't own any of our restaurants. I don't own any of the real estate. No, because we do deals. This is the reason why I do deals at the mall in Columbia. I can't buy that. It's on Restaurant Row at the mall in Columbia. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. You can stand right out in front of the restaurants. You can stay, all right, do I want to do this, the chicken and whiskey, or do I want to walk in, look around, smell? You walk into a restaurant, if it smells good, you should probably eat there. If it smells bad, you probably should leave. Yeah. I mean, just don't put it on social media, right? Call them. Oh my God. Yes. So are you asking me what do I use to guarantee these leases? What do I use to guarantee a bank debt? Yeah. Oh, okay. So I don't put myself at that risk. That's too rich for me.
Of us who own the property, the most part, we tend to live on the property.
Yeah.
But being personal.
Okay.
So I think it's asking, right, like how do you still protect yourself? Right, leave the property to your business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I mean, that's what I would do if I were in that position. We actually like that kind of a deal. We like the idea of buying a restaurant, getting in early, buying a restaurant, and then leasing it back. But the reason why I don't own the land where in the restaurants I go to is because to do my deals, I ask the landlord for a big chunk of money. It's called a tenant improvement allowance. And that allowance is anywhere from $100 to sometimes $250 a square foot. I'm currently working on a deal in National Harbor where I'm asking the landlord for $200 a square foot in a space that's 12,000 square feet. What is that? It's over just $2.4 million, right? It's called a tenant allowance or a tenant improvement allowance. It's for a space that you're leasing. You're going to invest money to make it look great. And I don't know if this is relatable to your business, but if you're in an area, a commercial trade area, and they want your the facade will look beautiful and your space look attractive. People driving by will see it, they'll notice it, they'll like it. It reflects well on, your neighbors. It reflects well on the area you're in. Doesn't look like a ramshackle rundown cabin or whatever somewhere. Again, my business is hyper presentational, but I feel like every business is hyper presentational. And the moment you think you're not being judged or you're not presenting yourself well, someone will say some nasty things about you, most likely. Yes, for sure. You're increasing the value of the property, and that's a great point. So oh no, they're giving you an allowance, but they're going to get it back in rent. And so here's the trade-off. Yeah, so I'll get $2.4 million if we do this deal. This is in the hypothetical right now. We have a LOI, letter of intent with a landlord. And so one of the business points is to get a tenant allowance of $200 a square foot. Yeah. Now every time that number, so that $200 a square foot costs me an additional amount of rent, meaning if I want $100 a square foot, I can pay rent they'll charge me $50 a square foot in rent. But if I want $200 a square foot, they're going to charge me $60 a square foot in rent. At the end of the day, the landlord gets their money back. They get their money back in rent. They have their own model. I need to pay my investors, you guys back. You guys gave me money to do a restaurant. I need to pay you guys back in 2.5 years. Well, landlords, depending on who you're working with, they need to get their investors paid back in anywhere from 4 to 5 years. So that's why they give you the money. They want their space to look beautiful and amazing and great and attractive. They want you to be successful. You can pay the rent, and that's how they recoup their investment. They're making an investment in you when they give you cash in that tenant allowance. But you pay for it. Ultimately, you pay for it. Yeah, but my business needs a lot of front-loaded cash, right? I need the first couple of years, I need a lot of money. And then once we get rolling, we're good. And that's why you see so many restaurants in all of these high profile areas where we can pay $40,000. I have certain places I pay $50,000 a month in rent, $50K a month in rent. That's crazy, right? It's so expensive, but it's okay if the business is doing $10 million a year in sales. I still make the profits that I need to make. My investors are happy, my landlord's happy, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I would imagine your business probably takes a year to ramp up. Is that right? 2 years? I don't know. I'm just using that. Maybe more. Yeah. Oh man.
Stick to the restaurants.
What are you spending on marketing? What other costs of the business? We've got 8% goes to
Occupancy, rent.
We've got 30% goes to labor. We've got 24% goes to food, and that's all I got.
And the remainder is your profit. So you're at 84. What's that? Marketing is typically, this is where it gets really tight. So marketing, so if you were to look at one of the budgets that my partner Stu puts together, you'll see a lot of little line items with 0.01%, 0.02%. Marketing, we spend on the average 2% on marketing. 2%, yeah, which is low, too low. But Brian, we do it because why do we do it? We do it because we prefer to spend money on location. So if I spend money on a great location and I'm paying more rent to be in this great area with all this built-in marketing and traffic already, I don't need all this marketing. But what happens when you're in a location that's not so great, right? Then you need to market. But what we are finding out is that of the 7 restaurants that we own and operate, 1, I swear to God, needs no marketing. It just happens. All the other 6, whether they're in great locations, ostensibly great locations with high rent, they need marketing. So we're spending we're really spending about 2%, but it needs to be higher. We should be spending 6% on marketing, and we're starting to do more of that. Yeah.
It kind of sounds like the restaurant and like some of your marketing is your location. They do it with foot traffic.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
You don't know we exist, never see us.
Yeah.
Driving by, we need to spend all that money that you spend on location.
Yeah. To reach them. Yeah. And you have great social media, invest your money in social media. And, you know, everyone is on their phones. 80%, 90% business is done on mobile. You want to make sure that you've got someone driving, you know, showing all these really fun, you know, find your demographic. Is it young? Is it me and my 10-year-old daughter? Is it me and my 6-year-old son? You know, you tell me what you do. First thing I'm doing is going to pull up best horse farm near me. And I'm going to see what your stars are on Yelp and Google and all these other things. And I'm going to base my decision off of the way you present yourself online, right? And then I'm going to come check you out. But to get me there, I'm pulling out my phone to see what's going on. So I'm going to go to your Instagram page. I'm going to go to your social media channels, TikTok and Facebook. And for me, I love Instagram the most, so I'll go to that. But more and more people are doing business via TikTok these days. It seems like Facebook is an older demographic, depending what you're shooting for there. We find Facebook really works well in markets like Colombia, but Instagram works far better in markets like Arlington, Virginia, where the demographic skews much younger. So make sure you really button that up and invest in it. Get someone savvy who's good at it and just start posting all that stuff. Did I invest anything? Do I pay for social ads? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, great. We do a lot of that. Yeah, that's super important. It's more sweat and foot, work, grunt work done in that. If we're interested in a certain market, we just go to that market. We spend a lot of time there. We go to all the different restaurants. We talk to everybody. We still do this. We see how people are doing. We call all our friends who maybe know or something about it, all of our industry friends, all of our networking. But one of the things that we do as well, we demand, we don't just ask, we demand the landlord provide us with the sales information of all of the restaurants in a certain area that we're inhabiting. So if we're going to work with Brookfield Properties and they have 20 restaurants, I want to see what every restaurant's doing over the last 5 years in sales. I ask them. This is how they know. So all of these real estate deals that you strike with these larger companies, even smaller companies, what landlords want to do to make more money is they want to charge you percentage rent. So when you hit a certain threshold, Brian, say 5 million, anything over 5 million, you're going to pay 5%, 5% additional. It's called percentage rent. And so it is their way of getting more money as you do better. So you have to also factor that into your pro forma. So with the percentage rent, they require as a condition of your lease that everyone must furnish financial information, sales information every quarter to your landlord. And so you pass that over to the landlord. So they have history of how you've been doing over the last several years. And so they just keep that, and that's how they collect their percentage rent. That's typically how it's done.
I'm just surprised that the other share, I feel like they have my district. I would that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're not technically, I guess when you say it like that, it doesn't sound great, but landlords know, and they say, here's the information. Don't send this information around. Don't email everybody. Don't tell people we're doing this, but they do it. They give that speech to everybody, but they do it because otherwise people wouldn't do deals, especially in these more expensive areas. We need some type of track record. We need some kind of history, right? That shows us we're going to be successful. It's all about mitigating as much risk as possible. You can get certain amounts of, especially if you're in a place that's, publicly traded company, that information is all available to you online. But what's a little more difficult is, say, on 14th Street in DC, we have 2 restaurants on 14th and one on corner of S, one on the corner of R. But we had to rely on our network, our social network, to tap into what these other restaurants were doing. We were able to do it. Took some time, but you got to do your own homework, Marv. You have to figure that out.
And they can actually ask for a price sheet, they can actually count this install, and exactly give a rough idea how many doors you have.
Yep.
You must plan schedule. You guys can honestly go undercover and get rough idea, it's like the base revenue you guys are calculating. What is board and how
Yeah.
much you guys got? How much is it a lot? Roughly how much you get? And that will give you guys some, it kind of go in an area with rough idea. You guys are good going to do that, no, one with that, you know. If you took that, you would figure that out.
So that's what we would do at first. We would go into my partner and I would go into the restaurants, and it's a fun little mathematical exercise. You look at the size of the restaurant, you count the seats, spend a couple hours in this place, but you count the seats. You look at the menu, you can really figure out really quickly what the average price per person is on an entree, throw in a drink, a dessert, boom, add the tax and gratuity. I've got my PPA, my per person average. You should do the same thing for your business. Get your per person average, right? For a lesson, what that cost is going to be. Then you multiply that by the number of seats in the restaurant, how many times the restaurant turns, right? Empties out and fills up, how many meal periods. You guys don't have meal periods, but you have a period of time in which you do business from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. Maybe you take a break in the middle of the day, but you'd have a morning session and an evening session. Those are we'll call them your train periods, right? It's probably not a good word, but we'll work on that later. The point is that you can mathematically figure out in a pretty, plus or minus 20% what your competitors are doing, and then find someone really good who lives in your area, perhaps, or not even in your area, but just find someone who's really good. And then you can equate that to your business as a model. Study as much information that's out there in terms of what's provided by, all kinds of government agencies, your demographics, your median income, the amount of people who are what they, the high end and the low end. So you have an understanding of your economic area, the density, right? You need to know the number of people that live in these spaces, those areas. There's a lot of information that's available at your fingertips, and you guys all have computers. Yes.
So you went from being like a passionate restaurant owner to a person owning many restaurants.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think we all agree that as horse business owners, we come from a place of doing everything ourselves.
Yeah.
It's been very hard to turn things over.
Don't you know it?
So you have advice for,
Yeah. You got to give people a shot, right? Let them go. Let them run a little bit. And if they fuck it up, they screw it up, excuse my crass language, rein them back in. That was for you guys. Rein them back in. That's for you. Yeah, but you give them a shot. You have to give them a shot, and be patient. Be patient. It's not going to happen in 2 days. It's going to take 2 months, maybe.
Who's got the last question
Sorry.
for this?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
People get us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah.
like, that's gonna be a very expensive term. So say if you guys want to have someone else run your business and you hire me, I've been doing this my entire life. I'm not cheap. And I'm.
Yeah.
You've got people who think that.
Right. Oh yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah. Have I ever read the E-Myth? I have not read it. No. I've read. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Right. Yes. Yeah. Such a great point. Such a great point. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Good lawyer, probably. Roadmap, your business partner, your good lawyer, and then boom. Good luck. Good luck. Go get them. Don't take no for an answer. Seriously, don't take no for an answer, right? I'm sorry. I typically cook for my kids and my wife as much as possible. Yeah, I enjoy that.